All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today we are going to do another Museum in Review. The reason I call it Museum in Review is because we did not get a podcast there, but the museum is well worth the mentions. I find a lot of times that I go to a museum and the museum is too big or has displays that I cannot accurately describe in a podcast or something like that. Or maybe the curator just doesn't feel that the podcast is a good fit with their museum. Sometimes I make contacts and the curators aren't there or they never contact me back. I do not get offended by this. I find it kind of a challenge, but I'm always still excited to go see the museum or see what they have to offer. This last week, we were at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. And it is one of those museums that I did call to get a podcast. I did not get a response from the curator, and I'm really glad that I didn't. Reason being is I could never have done this museum justice with my podcast. It would have been a 10-hour podcast in order to even begin to talk about all the things that they had and the variety of things that they had. This museum was absolutely astounding with their displays, with their instruments, with it almost defies description. What was your opinions of the museum, Linda?
That was amazing. You walk in and they give you some headphones, and at each little exhibit for each nation or country or whatever, there'll be a television video with the music that's in that little exhibit piece.
And what she's kind of talking about is this museum set up with musical instruments and music from all over the world. I think there was just about every country in the world represented.
Right.
And when we went in, where did we go first?
We started with Africa.
Right. Yeah, we decided that we were encouraged to go to...
the beginning of time.
Well, we were encouraged when we first got in there to go straight to the United States and Canada display, is what the guy had kind of told us, because that was the one that we'd be familiar with. But when we got up to the top, we decided we wanted to start at the beginning.
Right. Yeah. And so we stopped at each one and listened to all the music at each little area, and the instruments are amazing. A lot of them are handmade and very primitive. But
Very primitive.
Very primitive.
Some of them were like a string tied onto a branch or something. But some of those instruments had to have been thousands of years old. And we started off at Africa. Drums, lots
of drums and stringed instruments and flute type instruments, and decorated just beautifully in some of these areas. Just amazing, the amount of different musical instruments that have been invented. And
so we hit the African displays, and like Linda was saying, they had they'd have, let's say, Guyana or South Africa or the Congo, and they would have a display, and the display would usually have anywhere from 4 to 24 or 25 different instruments and things that were from that region. And then the thing I thought was really cool was televisions that they had that would interact with the earphones and the receiver piece that you hung around your neck like a necklace. And the videos, there would usually be 4 videos that lasted anywhere from 10 seconds to 30 seconds, I guess. and they would usually have the instruments that were on display being played by the native people.
Right.
And then they would also have maybe some of the native dances and
Mhm.
some of that kind of stuff.
And they had a lot of native outfits.
Costuming or
Yeah, I call them outfits, but
native wear.
for their dancing and religious ceremonies or whatever. It was very, very interesting, and it went through all the countries, and we ended up in.
Well, we went from Africa,
Mhm.
and then it took you on into Egypt and the Middle East.
Mhm.
And again, they had the instruments, and they showed them being played from ancient stuff to modern stuff.
Right,
In,
right.
in each country, you might have an electric guitar alongside of a very primitive guitar if it was being used in that particular country or region. So you had from modern all the way back.
We also saw a video on how they made the gongs. That was amazing.
And that was in the Chinese
Section.
and Thailand section.
Mhm.
Yeah, because once we moved out of the Middle East, we started into Asia, and that gong display and singing bowl display.
Oh, that was amazing. And let's see what else.
Then we went on over into the European
Mhm.
part, and the European area had a lot of the German and the French and Irish and
Bagpipes. You'd be amazed about how many countries have bagpipes. It's not just Scotland and Ireland like you think. They're all over different areas of the world, and they use bodies of animals, of course, to build them with a little.
they use the
Blowpiece.
skins and the blowpiece, yeah.
Mhm.
And then we saw those really old ones, even like from Africa and China. I was thoroughly amazed also at the bagpipe selection that you would see as we walk through. Drums seemed everywhere, and they had all kinds of drums, from little tiny things all the way up to drums that were probably 8 feet round. They must have been communal drums. And then they even had logs that were hollowed out with just a slit in the top that were maybe 6 foot long and 2 foot round that they used as drums. I'd never seen those slit drums or whatever that was that they called them.
Another thing that was really interesting was the wicker horn section.
Oh, and that was from the Philippines.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
They made
Out
the
of bamboo.
horn part was made out of wicker, and the tubes and everything, like for your trumpet, was made out of bamboo that had been bent.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some of them were very primitive, and some of them were very intricate with the designs and art. Very artistic with a lot of the instruments that were there, and guitar section was amazing. Different types of guitars and stringed instruments that were displayed beautifully.
I was really impressed with the harp guitars. It was shaped. It was like a regular guitar with a neck, and then on the other side it had a harp type structure to it, and it had the 6 strings or 12 strings like a normal guitar would, and then it had a whole harp section along with that. And I don't know how you'd play the guitar and the harp at the same time, but there was a really nice selection of those. Also a really nice harmonica collection.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in the American and Canadian North American section. It was just a marvelous museum, a really fantastic museum. They said, I think, that they had over 400 of the video screens. So there must have been, well, probably 400, probably not quite 400 countries represented, because there was several of them that were in the North American, but they had all the different regions there, from hillbilly music, bluegrass, rock and roll, folk music, just kind of everything.
Right, right.
So what was your opinion of the museum?
My opinion is that it was very interesting and that it's well worth to go there, especially if you're interested in any kind of music at all. And just the education there to see the different types of instruments that are all throughout the world and how people use music everywhere. The music is everywhere.
Music is life.
Mm-hmm.
They have so much cultural storytelling and cultural significance in these countries through their dance, their music, and everything else. That's the way that they keep their culture alive. But my opinion was that the museum was outstanding. Maybe one of the best museums I've been to. I wasn't necessarily excited about going because I like music, but looking at a bunch of guitars wasn't really my thing. When I walked out of there, my comment was, Linda, we only spent 3 hours in there and we missed a lot of the displays. We are going to have to go back down to Phoenix at some point in time. We are going to have to go back and spend a full day in this museum in order to even begin to do it justice as far as having seen what is there.
Right.
So
we'll have to go back.
We'll have to go back.
Yeah.
So that's our museum in review. If you're in the Phoenix area, don't miss it. It's so much worth the stop. And, as always, the world is full of wonder. This museum has more wonder from all around the world than just about any place I've ever been. Every country is represented. Get out and explore and have a wonder-filled day.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?